Welcome to Beat Diabetes. On today's program, you'll hear from a woman who has had more than her share of struggles in life. She was born with cerebral palsy. She's had terrible diabetes with an A1C of 13.8, and yet she has triumphed in both areas. You'll hear this amazing woman's story coming up. So this is a little unusual. We actually have an interview where the guest is in our home. And her name is Chichi, is it Iro? Iro. And she is, like my wife, from the great nation of Nigeria, the lion of Africa, right?
Yes.
So as is the case with everybody that I interview, you have had some struggles with diabetes. But first, let me say welcome and thank you for agreeing to share your story.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you here. And you have an additional struggle along with the diabetes that you have fought with, and that is cerebral palsy. And in most cases, that happens from childbirth. Was that your case?
Yes, that was my case. I was born with cerebral palsy.
Okay. And so that in itself is a struggle, and then the diabetes became a double struggle. Cerebral palsy, you can't do a lot about except adjust to it. And I mean, you would know better than I, but from what I've read, with diabetes, there's a whole lot you can do about it. And so tell us how it began for you, Chichi. You said your mother had diabetes. Let's start there and then tell us how it happened with you.
So, and I'm glad that you tried to draw, to compare fighting cerebral palsy with fighting diabetes and the difficulty of one condition against the other. So, and I would say that the strength that I used in fighting diabetes successfully came from my knowledge of fighting prior demons, especially cerebral palsy. My mother was diabetic. I knew my mother, even before the age of 40, was already using insulin as a diabetic. We saw her struggle with that fact. And it was at that point I told myself that I would do everything within my power not to be diabetic. And I did well. I did well by my own standards. But one of the things that led me to this path was that when my mother was sick in hospital, and they reduced, she couldn't eat her normal calories and make the normal food choices. She was not really diabetic at that point, and she didn't need insulin. So it kind of set off this light in my brain that diabetes is a, nutrition disease or a lifestyle disease. Mm-hmm. But she did not survive that ill health for me to actually practice my suspicion with her. But it led me to be interested in health coaching, nutrition, and how to avoid chronic diseases. So I did a great job doing that for myself and my family till COVID hit. And I want to point out, I'm sure everybody that has had this struggle has one area of their life that made it possible for them to have that condition or the disease strike them. For me, I had a Coca-Cola addiction. So I was an excellent health coach. I was an excellent nutritionist when it came to the food that myself and my family ate. We did very low carb, but there was always that need to add in Coca-Cola when I was under some sort of pressure or when I let my guard down. And that's what got me to that place.
Okay, so you ate healthy food, but you didn't always drink healthy drinks. Is that the idea?
I never drank healthy
Never
drinks.
drank healthy drinks.
And what will happen is occasionally when I go to my doctor and I notice that my blood sugar or my insulin was going up, I will cut back on the Coca-Cola for some time.
Mm-hmm.
I will actually, quit for some time. And I thought that I could play that game the rest of my life as long as I ate healthy.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that wasn't true.
Now, from talking to you, it sounds like that you went for quite a while where you were not diabetic, but you were kind of getting near the boundaries, getting near the border, and then you'd kind of cut back and watch it, and you felt like you were kind of keeping things under control.
Exactly.
And then at a certain point, things got out of hand, and you didn't even realize it there for a while.
Yes. I am fortunate to have a doctor that is an internist, and he runs an insulin test every time he does your blood work. He also runs A1C and the normal blood sugar tests. So I wouldn't say every time. Occasionally, there have been times in the past that he noticed that those numbers were going up. And each time he told me they were going up, I cut off Coca-Cola for some time, or I cut back and I brought it down. And I was able to do that every time in the past.
So your view of fixing the higher glucose levels pretty much centered around you're drinking Coca-Cola.
That was it.
They go up a bit, you cut back.
Yes.
They go down, you drink more.
Yeah. That's it. And also, if you're familiar with that sort of addiction, is also when you are under pressure, when you are, in your low point, or when you let it in once, it's going to be continuous. And that was my problem. Every time that I obliged to a bottle, I went back to and I felt as long as I washed every other thing, I would be okay. Just, doing that balance.
And for a long time, you weren't in bad shape. You weren't. You didn't hit that diabetic boundary. And then over the COVID years, you went a couple of years without seeing a doctor. Mm-hmm. And when you finally did, what did you find?
So I've always been like, in the few times that I try to hit the boundary, I will find out before it gets out of hand, and I will, put things in place, and it will go back. So during the COVID months, I was under tremendous stress. I didn't sleep. I was worried about my family and everything happening in the world. And I did not go to my doctor for a period of 2 years. And I ate whatever made me feel good because I weighed it. I wanted that comfort of knowing that I'm mentally in a good place, psychologically in a good place also. So I ate whatever made me feel good. And I was like, whatever I notice when I run the blood work, I can always handle it. But I was surprised to go to my doctor, and he ran my blood work and came back and told me that my A1C was 13.8.
Wow, 13.8 is incredibly high. I mean, it's almost about as high as it gets before you lose your sight. You may even have a diabetic coma. When he told you that, did he impress on you the gravity and the seriousness of how far you'd gone into diabetes at that point?
Because my doctor knew how knowledgeable I was about this, I usually coach other people on this issue. He knew that I knew what risk I walked in at that point. He also knew that I had the knowledge to, try to work on it. But he felt that there were other factors that may stop me from doing that. 13.8 A1C is not it's not going to be easy, even cutting back usual calories or craving to put things in your mouth, or even going back to the normal Coca-Cola that you went back to. He knew that it was going to be very difficult for me to do so. But he believed in me because he knew the personality I had and also the knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah, just from talking to you, it's pretty clear to me. You have an aggressive nature when it comes to health, and you'd been a health coach. You'd been dealing with even with diabetics and telling them this is what you got to do, and now it came on you big time. What was your reaction emotionally? Did you just set out and say, all right, I'm going to beat this, and you never missed a beat? Did you go through a period of depression? How did you respond to that news of such incredibly high blood sugar?
For me, I am a very spiritual person, and I take everything that has happened in my life and my success with dealing with life with the sort of disability that I have and the grace of God very seriously. The first thing, I was disappointed in myself.
Okay.
How could God have given you such excellent health and you messed it up with your own hands? And because in every other way, I was very healthy. And this was something that was brought on by my personal choices.
So you didn't blame God. You didn't say, oh, God, why me? First cerebral palsy and now severe diabetes. God, what are you doing to me? You didn't see it that way, did you?
No. If you follow me on Facebook, what happened when I got that result? Because I do a lot of writing on Facebook. The first thing I did when I got home, I didn't tell my husband. I didn't tell my sons. I did not want to scare them. I went into my room and I prayed. I said a prayer asking God for forgiveness.
Okay.
How could I have sabotaged myself? Such great life. Look at my life.
That is such an unusual attitude. I mean, I hear from diabetics all the time. I interact with them all the time. I don't know that I've ever heard someone say, as soon as I got diabetes, I went and asked God to forgive me.
Yes, I did that.
That's amazing to me.
I did that, and I vowed that, God, if you give me a second chance, I will never self-sabotage. And that's what I did. And that's what I've been doing. It's exactly a year since I said that prayer, and this is me.
Yeah. Now, up till that time, you kind of saw blood sugar as directly related to your Coca-Cola addiction, and you cut it back on the Cokes and everything gets better. You drink too much, it gets worse. But this took more than just cutting back on Cokes. You had to go into full-scale battle mode, right?
Yes. It was. I kind of battled it in 3 stages.
Okay.
And I battled it comparing the results from my doctor. Because now I could not battle it in ignorance. I needed knowledge to battle it. So the first 3 months, I thought I could do the usual things that I did. I did not wear a blood sugar monitor. I didn't really cut extremely down on any food group. I'm not normally a high carb eater, but I allowed carb occasionally in moderation. So I had some things, some food that I thought were very healthy for me because I did not check them against my blood sugar. One of those was rolled oats.
Rolled oats.
And I usually recommend rolled oats to so many of my clients as a healthy option. And I believe that maybe at some point in my life, rolled oats may have been healthy for me. I've successfully, lost weight. I've done better with my A1C in the past, having rolled oats. So in my first 3 months of trying to challenge diabetes, I just said, I know what to do. Cut back on, most high carb food. I wasn't eating that anyway, but just quit the Coca-Cola cold turkey from the day that I said that prayer and ate most things in moderation and with knowledge. So, and I did well. When my doctor ran the first blood work after three months, he was excited. My numbers were my A1C was 8.2.
Now, were you taking any medications or
No
insulin?
medication.
Okay.
I do take supplements. There are some supplements that I believe in. So I do take supplements, and I didn't do anything special. I I have like some very planned, physical activities that I do in my home. Yeah. We have a long hallway. I go up and down our hallway 100 times. I do pull-up bars. We have pull-up bars in the bathroom. I have kettlebell, resistance band. Whenever I want to lose weight, I work on those things within the house because I don't like to leave the house.
Well, and let me just say that's kind of amazing to me, because I would think, I mean, I could be wrong, but I would think a lot of people that had cerebral palsy would say, well, I've got this disability, so, I can't do exercise. I shouldn't do exercise. I don't need to do exercise. You'd kind of use it as an excuse. You didn't let that excuse you from moving, did you?
Universally, I am known as one of the people that have successfully had lived life with cerebral palsy.
Yeah.
One of the reasons for my success is the fact that I keep active.
Yeah,
in my own way.
And
so
you have a husband, you have 4 children, you've got you make YouTube videos, you got a Facebook. I mean, you are fully engaged in life, aren't you?
Yes.
Wonderful.
I'm also a lawyer. I've been a lawyer for over 30 years.
Wow.
So it's everything. So just seeing myself as able to do anything that I set my mind on is my secret. So the same knowledge that I had fighting cerebral palsy, I brought it with me to fight diabetes.
Yeah.
So after that first 3, I'm very competitive also. So when he told me my A1C was 8.2, he was ecstatic. I was disappointed.
Yeah, obviously, you don't want to live with an 8 A1C.
Yes, I didn't.
So did you decide to step on the gas a little harder?
I did. And what I did at that point was I started researching more, started thinking, what else can I do to make sure that I don't miss that mark the next 3 months?
Yeah.
It was while I was wearing the glucose monitor that I realized that rolled oats spiked me. It was while I was wearing it that I realized that there was this all-bran high-protein cereal that I also, equipped myself with at that time. And I took very little portions of these things. But it was amazing how much they spiked my blood sugar. So from that day that I wore the blood sugar monitor the first time, I took the rolled oats and the all-bran cereal. I put them in a particular cabinet in my house. Until today, they have not been touched.
Well, of course, at our channel, we talk a lot about Mike the meter. You had Charlie the CGM, the continuous glucose meter, but it's the same principle. It is like when you start getting information, you've got the motivation. You didn't change your diet and give up some of these things that everybody told you was healthy. Nutritionists would tell you were healthy. Everybody would say was healthy. But your CGM said, hey, this isn't working for me. It wasn't because somebody preached at you. It wasn't because somebody gave you a strong lecture, you shouldn't eat those things. It was because you were seeing with your eyes the results of your own blood sugar.
Yes, that was because it's unique to everyone, and sometimes because with that group that I wore their continuous, they gave a Liberal Inc. continuous glucose monitor, but they were, a group that does they help you get the glucose monitor without a prescription, which was what I wanted.
Okay.
So when I wore it, I realized, that I could test every kind of food. It was at that point, I'm Nigerian, we love to eat rice, and I make this very delicious coconut rice. And that was during the Christmas season. So I would occasionally indulge in very little and eat a lot more, protein, goat meat and chicken and all that. But when I wore that glucose monitor, I realized that even the minutest portion of that rice spiked my blood sugar. So, and it didn't mean that I would not eat rice for the rest of my life. It just meant that I could not eat rice every day. So,
yeah.
And then they gave me the blood sugar monitor for 2 weeks. In the 2 weeks, I did learn a lot about myself to say, okay, I don't have to pay for another month. I think I got it. And that was when it was at that point that I also saw that reversal.
Wow, that is so awesome. And just in 2 weeks' time, it was like you went through a course. glucose 101 or 202 or whatever, and in 2 weeks, you pretty well had it figured out. It was like some of the things they've been saying are healthy. They're just not working for me at all.
Yes.
You made some more changes. You'd done well. Going from 13 to 8 was good, but you were really on track after that.
Yes, and I made a lot more changes, because there's no one reason that somebody became diabetic. It's a group of factors. For somebody like me, I turned 55 this year. I also could not neglect the fact that, menopause had a role to play with that. I also could not neglect the fact that my gut may not have been in the best health. I could not also neglect the fact that not sleeping, because I was extremely stressed during the COVID years, months, and I slept very little.
Now, what about weight? Were you much heavier? I mean, you don't look overweight at all now. Were you much heavier then at the beginning of that
To most
diabetes?
people, I've never really been overweight because there's a way that my weight is spread out. And again, I am not very small, so I carry the weight nicely, but I've lost over 35 pounds.
Over 35 pounds. So that is significant.
Over 35 pounds. And this is the smallest that I've been in, I would say 15 years. But I'm still trying to beat my own, will I say, goal. So I keep setting new goals and I keep going because I want to be way lower in weight so that even if I add a pound or two, I will not worry. So I think I have about 5 more pounds to go to my ideal weight. And,
okay, well, you're getting mighty close. So 13 something to 8 something, and then did you get another A1C 3 months later?
Yes.
And by this point, you had really cut out some of the higher carb foods. And what was your next A1C?
So the next A1C came to 6.2.
6.2. Suddenly, you're at the non-diabetic level in terms of the number.
It was still not good enough.
You weren't. You still weren't satisfied.
I was like, oh, that work. Now I've used my biggest guns and my knowledge. What else can I do here? I didn't want to be in the pre-diabetic range, and also listening to a lot of people on YouTube and on your page, you hear a lot of people say, oh, they were able to reverse theirs within 3 months or within 6 months and all. But I would say that it's so unique to everybody, depending on the factors, because you could do your best, you could make your best move and it will still not get you there. You have to keep trying. So 6.2 was very disappointing. I did not even want to admit that was it. I thought I had it this time.
Thought you'd be in the 5s at that point.
In the 5s at that point. So, but I was also fast, almost getting into the 1 year mark. And I didn't want to get into the 1 year mark without making the 5s.
Okay.
So I decided, okay, I have to bring my biggest gun. What else can I do? I decided I'm going to try the ketogenic diet.
But how did you feel eating the ketogenic?
Initially, I struggled, but my doctor told me it was okay. When I told him the struggles I was having, and I knew why I was struggling, I had a bit of a headache, and I had a bit of a spike in my blood pressure, which normally doesn't happen.
Right.
But so I decided that I'm not going to do the strict keto, which has a lot of fats in it, because when I add in the fats, I will not lose the weight. Initially, I was doing MCT oil. I was doing, a lot more avocados. But what happens with me on the ketogenic diet? I don't gain, I don't lose.
Okay.
I stay there. Okay? So it's a good maintenance plan But you do know that you have to continue to lose weight also. And for me, I wanted to lose the weight, not for anything. You look good when you lose weight and all that. But I had lost a lot already, but I wanted to lose more. So now I had to do a new setup plan. I decided, okay, I'm wearing the glucose monitor again to learn new foods and the way my body reacts to new foods. And this time I'm going to learn a lot more food and stick to those food. And that will be my lifestyle. I'm not going to eat anything out of that.
Yeah. So basically similar to the other time you wore it, but this time you're even more determined. Try lots of foods, lots of meals, constantly checking.
Yes.
Are you keeping track, writing it down or putting it on a spreadsheet or anything? Or are you just remembering?
The one that I use right now, you actually have to take a picture of the food.
Okay.
And put it in the app.
Okay, so you're going through you've gone from 13 to 8. Another 3 months, you're at 6.2. Do you go back 3 more months? This is the tougher, stricter Chi-Chi than previously, and you were pretty tough and strict before.
Yes.
3 months later, what do you discover?
The problem with the next 3 months was on your channel, a lot of people were talking about being in the 4s, and I was like, why not me? Why not me? So it wasn't really. So what I wanted. No, actually, I went back the next 3 months. It was a 5.4. And
5.4.
Yes.
Well,
and
that is awesome.
I was like that.
From someone at 13 down to 5.4. I mean,
13.8.
Yeah, 13.8 to 5.4. You should be the poster child for diabetics everywhere.
Yes.
I mean, that's just amazing. And you're still not satisfied.
I'm still not satisfied. I need to be in the 4s. But also, one of the things that I would like to share with a lot of people is that a lot of women, a lot of people have reached out to me because there are so many people that are insulin resistant and don't realize it.
Okay.
There are even very young people that are insulin resistant and having different symptoms and they do not realize it. You have swelling in one joint or the other. You have things appearing on your skin. This sort of person, my skin heals very well. I have very good skin. But during those months that I had high blood sugar, I noticed a lot of pigmentation on my skin for no reason. And they felt a bit velvety. And I knew what was going on. I was in denial. I was also afraid but I never really thought that I had missed the mark that much. So my next target is to be in the 4s. I don't care. It can be 4.9, 4.8. I'm good.
Well, you said you were a competitive person, and I can surely believe it because every time you make significant progress, you ought to be patting yourself on the back and saying, Chi-Chi, you done good. And instead, you're like, that's not good enough.
That's not good enough.
But you've come such a long way. And, you said even before all this mess, you were a health coach. Well, you definitely deserve that title now, having seen the victory in your own life.
Yeah.
So your last was 5.4, and now I told Benedicta, you guys are going to have a meal with us, and I said, she's stricter than I am because she won't even eat berries, and I'll eat berries. So I said, we've got to be real careful with this lady.
That was another thing. When I wore this new glucose monitor, I noticed that every time I added berries to foods that I considered healthy, it spiked me.
Okay.
And when I'm talking about a spike, maybe it may not be a spike for any other person. I've never really had any meal blood sugar go higher than 143. But for me, because the app that I use, normal for them is 140. It doesn't matter if it's post-meal, So that's my standard.
If you've recently been diagnosed with diabetes and you've just discovered this channel, let me recommend that you go to our Uploads page, which will give you access to every diabetic video we've posted since we began. As you work your way through all our videos, I believe you'll find the help you need. A link to our Uploads page is in the description.